To another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm Austin with the Sports Chief, and we're going to Richmond Raceway for the Federated Auto Parts 400. So, I'd just like to let you know, guys, college football is it's already started, but we got the Charlotte app game today at noon, so I'm pretty excited about that. The Sports Chief, we have some alumni on both sides. That's pretty cool, so maybe we'll get some bragging rights. But this is about NASCAR DFS, and this will be tonight at Richmond. So I've been watching the Truck Series. I've been watching the Xfinity Series this week, and tire wear is very key. You want a fast car, of course. There's 400 laps in this event, and they get 9 sets of tires for the Cup race. So it's not going to be as much about tire management as those events, but you also want to pick drivers that are really good on short tracks. And we do have a few of those as well. So second race in the NASCAR playoffs, that's something to keep in mind. Last week we kind of fell a little bit, and I've been struggling a little bit with Richmond, but I know it's because of my strategy. So whenever you're at short tracks, you have to change it up a little bit. You have to look at drivers that will dominate the race. I know a lot of other sites, they say like dominators and use different terms for people, but to me, I feel like I get a little overconfident, and I try to pick a driver who I think is going to dominate the race. Last week I said Denny Hamlin would do that, and Denny did okay, but it looked like it was Martin Truex was pretty much dominating the race, and he had something happen at the very end. So, and then Kevin Harvick, he ended up winning the race at the very end. So it is what it is, but we're heading into Richmond, and I feel very confident about this. So let's just go ahead and see what DraftKings has to offer for us. I'm definitely going more of a tournament strategy, just to let you know. So let's just check it out here. So DraftKings has given us Denny Hamlin starting in 7th at 11.6. Pretty expensive. Kevin Harvick on the pole at 11.3. Martin Truex Jr. starting in 14th at 10.9. Chase Elliott starting in 12th at 10.5. And rounding out our 10K drivers, the 5th one, is Brad Keselowski starting in 9th at 10.1. So Martin Truex Jr., the last I checked, was the favorite to win this race. He has dominated here, and he's won a couple times. It took him a little while to get going in his short track career, but he looks to be a pretty good choice. Denny Hamlin overall is one of the better drivers here. His average finish is like 9th. He has 3 wins, so if you're going off of that, he's starting in a pretty good spot. But it is ahead of where he normally finishes. Kyle Busch is the best driver here, statistically speaking. He's starting in 6th, and he's got an average finish of about 7th, and he's won 6 times. He's won a bunch here. So I already know that Martin Truex Jr. is going to be super chalky, especially with that starting position, and on top of the fact that he's the favorite. Yeah, I think Truex is going to be heavily picked. I think Hamlin will be decently owned as well, but not as much as Kevin Harvick probably, starting on the pole. Harvick is pretty good here. He's got an average finish around 10th. With 3 wins, so that's something to look at as well. While looking at this, it was really hard for me to make my first decision. One strategy that I'm probably going with more so is picking more playoff drivers than I did last week. I don't know that you really want to go out on a limb and pick a lot of the bottom drivers and hope that they finish higher. So let's just go ahead and check that out here. I'll go as low as really LaJoy. McDowell is an interesting option if you're going hardcore tournament. You want to pick a lot of the top drivers. He could finish above top 20. It's very unlikely, but he could. So for that reason, I'll just cut it off there. Suarez in 28th, not really an interesting option. Corey LaJoy in 34th. I think you'll see a decent amount of people going with him. I just worry about the horsepower, and I could tell that a lot of those drivers in the back, once you get backpedaling, there's not a lot of cautions at this race. So 400 laps, that's a long time to be riding around in the back, and if he gets a lap down early, might not be good for him. So I'll cut it off at Buescher. Really. John Hunter Nemechek is a decent option as well in 31st, but he doesn't have the track record to me to want to pick him. Matt Kenseth in 19th does have the track record. Tyler Reddick, Ryan Newman, those guys are in decently fast cars, but I don't really like those guys either. So my first option even to consider would be Christopher Bell. Reason being is he's won here 3 times in the Xfinity Series. Matt DiBenedetto performed pretty well here last year. I believe he got like 14th in this car. And Christopher Bell, one thing to note, I'll just go ahead and say it. So they're using the same tire compound. As I stated, they have 9 sets. They're using the same tire compound as they used at New Hampshire and Phoenix. So what I did, I kind of used the formula to predict, how they performed at that track, those 2 tracks, excuse me, and went off of that. Now, it wasn't my sole based option. I remember I picked Christopher Bell in New Hampshire for the reason that he was so dominant at that track, and he actually got a couple stage points. He finished, I want to say 6th in the first stage, got up there really early. So I do like Christopher Bell a lot, and he's starting in 26. I do think his value, and I'll check it out here in a second to who I really needed to compare him to. His value looked immense. He could get like 15th and get us, close to 40-some points. So I really like that option, and I'm going with Christopher Bell. Now, also, another driver that I'm really, really enjoying going with, and I'm going with playoff drivers pretty heavily, so I just picked a non-playoff driver. I like Cole Custer. He's the cheapest playoff option. He's starting in 13th. He's got an Xfinity win here at Richmond. He also finished 8th at New Hampshire and 9th at Phoenix. If he can get me 10th, that's an amazing return. Love Cole Custer at 7,300. Going with him. I think you don't want to be too cute with these lineups here. And I'm also going with Matt DiBenedetto. So Matt actually finished 5th and 13th. He finished 5th, excuse me, getting ahead of myself, at New Hampshire and 13th at Phoenix. He's starting in 16th spot. If you do the 18 there, that's an average finish of 9th. So, hey, if he can get us 9th there, that's a great return. Love Matt DiBenedetto. He's a playoff driver. He's in Team Penske. I think he'll be really grinding it out. He's going for that playoff spot because he is on the outside looking in, kind of. He's in that borderline. So, really like Matt DiBenedetto. And that gives us 9,300 to spend, which is a crazy amount, right? All right, so I'm going to cut off at Byron since that's my driver that I'm considering there. And if you're scanning the top drivers here, so to me, I've already stated about how Denny and Harvick do here. Chase Elliott's okay. You're looking at like 2 or 3 top 5s. He's only led a race once here in his 8 or 9 starts. So he's not that great. Brad Keselowski's one that I really enjoy going with at a short track. So he's starting in 9th. His average finish is 12.7. He's got a win. He did win at New Hampshire, and he finished 11th at Phoenix. That's an average finish of 6th. Pretty good. He led 82 laps at Phoenix, by the way, as well. So he easily could have won Phoenix. Really like Brad here, and he's actually really good at Richmond. He's led a lot of the recent laps here, or races here. So I'm going to pull the trigger on Brad Keselowski. Because I know Truex is going to be heavily on Chase. I think Chase will perform well. I just don't want to pay that extra $400 for a driver that hasn't really shown the track record here. Now, he may perform well, and that would be great. But I don't know that Brad's going to be that highly owned. I think a lot of your people are going to go towards those higher tiers and then try to pick drivers like Johnson or Jones. So that's what I'm going with there. And let's cut off at Kyle Busch. So Kyle Busch starting in 6th. I went with him in the Xfinity race. Was very upset at the fact that he couldn't get to the front. It was like he got top 5 and then couldn't get past these drivers. I don't know that Kyle's got the right mindset this year. I don't know if this is his year at all. I figured he would turn it around. He hasn't won a race yet. I can't go with him. I've been picking him a lot, but his average, as you can see there, his fantasy points per race is worse than Jimmy. It's worse than Almirola. It's worse than Austin Dillon. It's not very good. And, he's honestly right there with William Byron. So I can't go with Kyle, no matter how good he's been here. I do think he'll get a top 10, but I just can't go with him. I'm going off of drivers I think can dominate at this point now. And Brad is one of my drivers that I think can. So looking at this, right now I have 2 Penske drivers. I've got a Stewart Haas Racing and then a Joe Gibbs second tier with Levine. So in the engine program. Now, we have $8,900 to spend. Jimmy Johnson, I really do think he'll perform okay here. But I love Clint Bowyer. Clint has been really excited to come here. He's starting in 11th. Clint has 2 wins. His average finish is 12.5. He actually finished 5th at Phoenix. Didn't do that great at New Hampshire, but then again, Similar track to Phoenix, I can see him getting the top 5 really easily, and he's in the playoffs, so he's going to perform pretty well, I believe. So that leaves me at 9,600. Now here's where I debated on what I should go with, like I stated about Christopher Bell. So you have Ryan Blaney in 15th. Ryan is like astronomically bad here. He's actually got an average finish of 25 plus. He's never gotten a top 10. He's terrible here. And he really needs a good spot, a good finish, and I think that he can do that. But then again, I'm sitting here using my formula, and Joey Logano is starting in second. Now, Joey hasn't shown that he's dominated races this year, and I don't know that he will dominate Richmond tonight, but his average finish at Richmond is 11th, which is really good. He's got 2 wins. He won at Phoenix earlier on in the year and finished 4th at New Hampshire. So, looking at that, that's just a no-brainer for me, right? Joey could easily lead a lot of laps. He's probably going to finish top 5. His average finish is 2.5 at the 2 tracks that they're using the same tire compound. So I love Joey Logano there. Reason being, you know, this was the tough choice for me. So if I took Bell out, that does leave me with William Byron in 5th. Did a little research on William. He's not that great here. I couldn't pull the trigger. Reason being, I think you can go him and not be too badly hurt. But if he ends up getting like 7th or so, you're losing 2 spots, you're probably going to look at like 30-some points. Well, Bell, in order to get me 40, if he gets a top 15, that's awesome. And I think that's very doable. So I'm going to pull the trigger on Christopher Bell. I don't feel like it would be a bad option to go William Byron there. But if you went Ryan Blaney, that would give you Christopher Bell. Like you could not afford William Byron. So that's just an option for you guys. See what you think there. But I really love this. I got 3 Penske drivers, really. 2 Stewart-Haas guys, and then Christopher Bell. So, again, William Byron would solidify that pretty awesome. So, let's see here. Let's go ahead and clean it up here. So, I'm going with Brad Keselowski. Ultimately, Brad or Joey are my choices to win this race. I really should hope that Joey leads a lot of laps, but I think he can. It's not like crazy to think that. So got Brad at 10-1, Joey at 9-3, Clint Boyer at 8-3, Matt DiBenedetto at 7-5, Cole Custer at 7-3, and then rounding out our lineup, Christopher Bell at 7-2. So there you have it, folks. More of a tournament. I think that I'm picking a lot of drivers. I think Bell will be decently owned. Other than that, though, DiBenedetto might be, Boyer might be, but I don't think Logano and Keselowski will be highly owned. So I've been very chalky in my Xfinity and truck lineups, trying to go against the grain a little bit. So there you have it, folks. If you like what you see here, check us out on www.thesportschief.com. Also on Twitter at thesportschief and on Instagram as well. Also, hey, the Xfinity race is at 2, but check out the Charlotte app game at noon. We got ESPN coming to Boone, so that'll be pretty cool to check that out. I'm excited for that. Hopefully the fans can get back soon. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, hope you learned something here in tournament strategy, DFS strategy. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, just go on the bottom of this video and ask us something. Also, subscribe to our channel. And hit that bell notification that lets you know that whenever we go live. So, hope you have a great weekend and happy race day at Richmond.